we have talked about it on this channel before, that the AFC North is at a interesting crossroads, and I don't think the AFC North in its entire existence since becoming the AFC North from the AFC Central has been in, right? This is a division defined by decades of stabilities of coaches, right? Outside the Cleveland Browns, but even since 2020, every single team has been defined by a prolonged era of coaches, whether you're thinking of the Brian Billick, Bill Cowher era, Marvin Lewis to now the Kevin Stefanski, Zach Taylor, Harbaugh, Tomlin era. And really the Harbaugh-Tomlin era was its own thing, and now it's part of this other thing. There has been remarkable stability in the AFC North over the last 5 years, more stability than any other division. And that has been something that's been the calling card of this division. But now we're seeing those walls start to break down a little bit. Pittsburgh going 8-8. Well, not going 8-8 all the time, but just hitting their head on that first round ceiling. You know, the Cleveland Browns have had frustration with their offense over the last 2 years. The Cincinnati Bengals feel like they're being limited by their head coach. And then there's the Baltimore Ravens, who I think most people would assume they would be happy with John Harbaugh, but they aren't. And if we're going to talk about this, I got to bring in somebody who has been talking about the Ravens for a very long time, who knows and has his finger on the pulse of what Raven fans are thinking. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him from AFC North Talk. I believe this is your first time officially on a dedicated video on the channel. I think I've done clips of AFC North Talk here. Was the first dedicated, my channel exclusive you've been on. It seems weird because we've known each other for so long here. Since the 2019 training camp? We were trying to figure out if Lamar was real. Yeah, that was at camp.
That's a long time ago.
Wild, right? Wild how fast the time flies. I was watching Lamar's feet in camp thinking is he going to be able to throw the ball well? But it's been a long time. That's how long this division has been relatively stable as well. Pretty much the entirety of we've been doing AFC North Talk. And now we're looking at not just one team ending an era, but potentially all four AFC North teams, which would be the most AFC North move at all time. If all four teams decided this offseason, let's just move on. Let's clean it and then get 20 more years of stability, hopefully, each. But yeah, for people who are confused, hey, the Ravens have had success. They've won the division. Why is it that they want to fire their coach despite the fact that they have a bad record and Lamar's been hurt?
Yeah, so the problem here with John Harbaugh is John Harbaugh, you would think, especially how long he has been coaching, at this point in his career, he should not get out-coached. Right? So you think about Shanahan, for example, because the Ravens have been injured for a while, right? Now they're rarely getting healthier, but Shanahan has the worst luck with injuries. The 49ers, every year, a bunch of players are injured.
Mm-hmm.
But Shanahan doesn't feel like he cannot coach if most of his players are not playing. I'm not saying that he always wins, but he doesn't get embarrassed. Think about that Texas game. The Ravens not only lost, they got embarrassed. Yes. And that happens to Harbaugh. And I think the problem is, and the frustration here, is Harbaugh's a leader of men. Okay. But if you're a leader of men, your team needs to show up in every game. That game, the team did not show up, right? The team looked like we're here because we need to collect a paycheck. It almost felt like it was the end of the year and you're out of the playoffs. Last game of the season, we're just here because we had to get here, collect the paycheck, and we can just bounce, right? And that's what it felt like, but it was like week 5, I think it was that game. So Ravens fans then look at the other teams, McVay, Shanahan with envy, saying well, these guys can fix a certain portion of set team, right? Because they're either elite play callers, but because of different things. Because if you think about, for example, a guy like Shanahan, and you take it from the outside, Shanahan has similar problems to Harbaugh. They cannot win the big game. Well, Harbaugh won it once, but Shanahan cannot. But Shanahan, again, with all his faults, when his teams are injured, he can still put a performance, right? You
Hmm.
don't go and see the 49ers, Brock Purdy's not playing. Well, this team is cooked. I'm not even saying that they win all the time, but they compete, they battle, right? And this is throughout playoffs, throughout regular season. And when you get a Lamar being injured, it is what it is. You're not expecting to win that game, but where's the heart in the battle for this
There,
Ravens team?
it feels like the 49ers are constantly making decisions that, yeah, if they have to deal with things popping up, they're in a better position, where the Ravens are going out and they're signing Cooper Rush. Right. And they got lucky to luck into
Oh,
Tyler Huntley. Right.
thank
But
God.
it's stuff like, I think it's like things like that. And like some of that might be Eric DeCosta, but like, the reality is that coaches, especially coaches been around for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and staffs that have been around for a while, are going to have a say in what you do in free agency. Right. I know we tend
Yep.
to always split it up. Well, DeCosta signed him, but a backup quarterback, that could be a coach's decision at the end of
Yep.
the day. Right. And you got to ask yourself, like, how did the team get led to that point when Huntley was available? You lucked into Huntley still being available because
Yep.
somehow, like, the rest of the league didn't want him, and then you got him back. But like that's a decision there. Like, that's not something that happens with Kyle Shanahan, because Kyle Shanahan, he always goes and he gets, Mac Jones or Josh Dobbs or somebody he knows he can work with to
Mm-hmm.
be able to run the system. And it's like, I don't understand what the vision was for Cooper Rush running Todd Monken's system the way
I don't
that
know
Lamar
either.
Jack. It's just, it's things like that. And it's like, do you feel like at the end of the year that the Ravens are getting that the staff is getting the most out the Ravens specifically? And I think that's where Raven fans feel like they're consistently falling short, because
Mm-hmm.
if I couldn't imagine being a fan of the Ravens, but like there are times where you watch them and you're like, this is the best football team in the NFL. And I can kind of have some empathy here, because this is kind of how I feel when I watch the Cavs, right? Where you're like, oh yeah, when we show up, we're unbeatable.
Yeah.
And then every year in the playoffs, you're wondering, who is this team right now that I'm watching? And at some point, right, like, yeah, Lamar does deserve to get some blame for, not maybe having the MVP caliber performances that you would expect a guy of his caliber to have. Maybe you could throw some blame at some defensive guys, Roquan, whoever you want to, Zach Orr. But at the end of the day, it's like, not once, like, when's the last time you've watched a Harbaugh led team and thought to yourself, they went out, like, if they either went out and they played their absolute best game in the playoffs, in a big game, and either went your way or not? Like, when's the last time you really felt that way?
I cannot tell you. I think maybe the the game against Tennessee, not the one we lost, but the one we won. That game was well coached throughout. Harbaugh also has, and again, nothing, not that you expect this from a seasoned coach, problems with clock management. Like I felt
Mm.
sometimes we're moving too slow in a 2 minute offense, and I'm like, are we just trying to kick a field goal? Why? Like I'm talking like at the end of the first half. Why were you not pushing all the way? And then like if you were there with a minute and a half in the red zone and you want to slow it down, okay, I get it. But you're slow from the beginning. Nothing guarantees you're gonna make it there for a touchdown. Touchdowns are hard, but he's like, yeah, just take your time, no timeouts. And then
Yeah, there's not really a sense of urgency there.
yeah, and I'm like, dude, but this is not your first rodeo. You're not Cohen over there in Jacksonville effing this up, right? First year coach. Come on. And this is the problem, right? And then people, when we talk, for example, about a Zach or this year in particular, people were frustrated. Why are you knocking Top Monken? This offense was great when Lamar was here. Yes, it wasn't great when Cooper Rush was here. But on the flip side, consistently the defense has been bad. Final 2 weeks have been better, but consistently they were bad early on. So why are you not criticizing Zach Orr? It's like it almost feels in the case of the coordinators. Tom Monking is the first coordinator that basically hasn't grown with this team. Like even Giro was like an assistant to the offensive coordinator before him, Marty. right? And then basically they demoted Marty, and then Giro felt like he was part of it versus Start Monken was higher. Zach Orr was the player under Harbaugh from rookie to, he then couldn't play. Harbaugh let him stay in the coaching staff. He left the 1 year to go with Meyer over there at Jacksonville, and then he came back to Baltimore, and he has grown here. It almost feels like Harbaugh protects him so much versus Monken. He's like, I can fire him and get another guy. And I'm
Yeah, it's
like,
like
dude,
he's
no.
not one of his guys, right? Like Zach Orr
Exactly.
is one of his guys.
Yes. Same thing. McDonald, when he was here, the first half of the year, he struggled a little bit, and then he got it. So by year two, he was already rolling this. But all people look at Zach Orr, I'm like, yeah, but what about the coach? Coach can fire him. We have Pagano behind him. So it's not like you don't have anybody with no experience, right? And if you're a Super Bowl team, or you consider yourself a Super Bowl team, that window can open and close very quickly, right? So wasting a season because you don't want to fire or Zach Orr because you don't want to make change, that's on you, on the coach, because again, you are quote unquote the leader of a man. That's what you do. That's what you do best, right? We're not talking about again Shanahan that calls the offense. Tomlin in theory puts the defense together. I know he doesn't call it, but that is his system. Harbaugh doesn't have any of that. He brings another OC. The OC changes everything. Okay, his whole thing is I'm the leader, man. I'm the decision maker. The decision making during a game play. I feel like I don't know if it's too stressful for it. Again, this is the problems and the annoyance that the Ravens can have with John Harbaugh. And I don't know if the game is just moving up too fast for him. You were asking about personnel. He has said, for example, we were pushing the trade deadline. He said EDC talks to him about a bunch of different players that he wants or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm questioning here, like, yeah, but is he the right person to talk to? Does he know what offensive player fits his offensive scheme better? On the flip side, what defensive player fits his defensive scheme better? I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. I think he might know the character he wants, right? I think that is the vibe that Harbaugh gives me. There's certain character he wants. If you think about the year that we won the Super Bowl, which was a while ago, there was an uprising because these guys did not like Harbaugh. Anquan Bolden did not like Harbaugh. Ed Reed did not like Harbaugh. Ray Lewis was okay with Harbaugh, but and then he took all those characters out. Bernard Pollard, he did not like Harbaugh. He basically cleaned house with all those guys. He put guys that he molded to him. And I think with time he noticed that, yeah, maybe I cannot win with these characters. I need to bring a little bit more oomph to the locker room. But still are certain characters that he doesn't allow. Again, which is fine. But the question here is, do you know the players that fit the system that you currently have? Right? I don't think so. I think if it is an offensive player we're looking, don't ask John Harbaugh. Ask Monken. Because Monken knows what guy runs the system, what type of guy can run the system well. And I guess Zach Orr for now, I will ask Chuck Pagano more. But okay, Zach Orr, I think will know more than Harbaugh. Again, I don't know if Harbaugh is that guy.
The overall kind of sense I'm getting from what you're saying is like, in general, when it comes to almost everything, it feels like there isn't the sense of urgency that's necessary for a team that's trying to win a championship right now, right? Like, when you talked about wide receiver in the past, I know you've been wanting the Ravens to make an aggressive move at wide receiver pretty much since we've started the show. And it doesn't feel like that sense of urgency is there to make that happen. You get to the last 2 minutes of the game. It doesn't feel like that sense of urgency is there, right? It never feels like they understand the moment, right? And how rare it is to get a chance to even get to a Super Bowl. Like that conference championship game you guys were in. It's like you're not guaranteed to get back every year.
Exactly.
Right? And it's kind of like they're like, oh, well, we got a quarterback. We'll get back. We'll get back, right? It always feels like next year, right? We'll get back, or we'll wait till a year to fire Zach Orr or to move on from him and just like, see what happens this year. And it's a lot of just like, the window is now with Lamar. And honestly, the year to win it was 2 years ago if you're the Baltimore Ravens, right? Yeah. Like, so you're already past due, and then you look around and it's like, the sense of urgency is still not there. It's like, yeah, you go out, you get Derrick Henry last year, and that's a good step to it, but why not make an extra move to put you over the top, right? When you have the opportunity to do so. And it's like, nah, we'll keep, playing it safe and rolling it here and, seeing what we can get with this and that. And, let's be patient here and there, which I get. But when you're at that point, you're at the summit of like, hey, look, you got like a year or two. And the Cavs, ironically enough, there's a lot of similarities between these two teams, are kind of at a similar point for me where I'm like, all right, like, if there's a problem, you got to fix it now. Like you can't wait for the snake to bite your face a third time, right? Like if you don't think you could do this or this guy could do what you need to do, then you need to move on. Do you think that Lamar is at a place where he feels like there's a coaching change would be necessary? Because that's the guy who has the power to make that happen, right? Like unless Lamar is like leading that ship, it's not going to happen. So do you think he's at the place to where he can be convinced that his best path forward might necessarily be without Harbaugh? Real quick, just want to let you guys know Sleeper has a new offer here. They're offering a free $20 entry, no deposit required. And also, if you're a first-time user, you also will receive a 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code WORSTTAKE. Again, $20 free, no deposit required. Plus, first-time users also receive a 100% deposit match up to $100. Join Sleeper.
I don't know, because I think what Lamar sees in Harbaugh is a guy that allows him to do what he wants. And I'm not saying that Lamar is here more being a diva or anything, but if he wants to go for it and he expresses during the field, Harbaugh's like, okay, whatever, go for it. And I feel like as a coach, that's not a dynamic that I like as a coach, right? As a coach, I want you, because the player's emotional in that moment, right? The emotions of the game is going through them. As the coach, you have to detach yourself for that moment and say, nah, that's not the best play here, or it might be the best play here, but you as the player not necessarily dictate that. So I don't know if he wants Harbaugh gone, or I don't know if the frustration has boiled to that level. The biggest problem that I have is I don't think Harbaugh gets fired at all, because I think EDC and him they're just bros. They're neighbors. They go to church together. They've been together forever. It will have to basically come here from Bisciotti and say, EDC, I know you like him. I like him too, right? Because Bisciotti has been with this guy forever. But I think it's time for a change. I think if they get to 8 wins, he probably convinces Bisciotti, hey, look, I had 3 weeks or 4 weeks of no Lamar. I would have made the playoffs if not, and I think he stays. But I think the problem is Harbaugh, ADC, the combination here. Think about this. There's 2 positions right now, 2 that are very critical. One, in my opinion, more than another, that the Ravens cannot draft to save their lives. Wide receiver, although Zay Flowers looks to be a good receiver, not maybe like that top tier, but definitely good enough that you can win with Zay. The second, which is the worst drafting of all of them, we'll see how Mike Green is. It's too early, but it's outside rusher. 2 years ago, we're talking about a guy who was out there, Brian Burns, 2 and a 5th, a 2nd and a 5th would have got you Brian Burns. That's the same trade that you made for Roquan, right? Why you didn't that the following year is crazy to me. When you haven't been able, Odafe would have been in the team not performing well. You basically had to add veterans here. They have performed, but those are just patches, right? That's not long term. Odafe would have been a long term. He didn't pay out, right? David Ojabo, he was an early 2nd round pick, didn't pay out. Again, we'll see with Mike Green, too early to tell. But those are things that I will say it goes for both the coach and the GM. If you're talking about going for it, where are the 2 positions that you need the most? Pass rush is essential to win in this league. Right now, we're half-assing this. Let's try to blitz here with Kyle Hamilton and Roquan to see if we can generate any pass rush. We'll see in the trade deadline if they do anything. But pass rushing in this time in NFL, always, but definitely now, is critical. The Ravens, I don't know if you saw this report, they are looking, supposedly, according to what is the name of this lady that we always talk about? reporter.
Oh, Diana
And
Rossini.
yeah, she's hearing that the Ravens are looking for cornerback. I'm like, wait, what corner? We depth at corner is good, but we have three, and we have Jair not even being active.
It's kind of a constant too, because like they went after running back in free agency, and it's like, well, the one thing the Ravens never really had to worry about is run game. Now it's Derrick Henry, so like you're not gonna complain about it, but you know.
Yeah.
It's like you go at the running back there. You know, they've done like countless times where you're like, hey, they need a wide receiver. They need a wide receiver. And they go out and they trade for Roquan. I remember that was my main criticism of Roquan Smith. The Roquan Smith trade was like you traded a second and a fifth and gave him all this money. And it's like Roquan Smith is a good player. He's not the kind of player that's going to like transform things for you. Like you could be a bad defense with Roquan Smith. And you could be a great defense with Roquan Smith. But, you know, I thought that the Ravens need to invest that kind of capital in a wide receiver or an edge, right? We've been clowning the edge situation, the wide receiver situation, as long as we've known each other, right? About the Ravens. And it's like they've done very small swings at those positions over the last few years. And it's odd because it's the two glaring issues that these rosters have had over the last 5 years. It's like, hey, you need some edges, you need some wide receivers. And I understand, like, okay, early on, you're going to keep to your process. But you know, when there have been opportunities to go out and get guys, right? Like AJ Brown was traded while we were having these conversations, right? You know, there have been countless wide receivers. Stephon Diggs was available, right? Like, you know, like
Deebo Samuels just got traded, and Deebo is a guy that is gadget guy that probably fits well with Lamar. You talk about Amari Cooper. When you guys got him, Ravens could have traded for him. That was still Amari Cooper had some juice in it.
There's been so many guys that I've seen Raven fans like do the Photoshop for, right, over the years. And it's like they're never really in those conversations or aggressive enough in those conversations to come home and get that player. But then they'll be like, oh, well, we got Roquan, right? It's like, well, you need an edge. You need all these other things. And it's like, it's nice to have Roquan. And maybe if you had Roquan and the edge, I wouldn't have so many jokes about that. But like, it's not the situation right now. Like Calvin Noyes had to hold it down for them at the edge position. And I think that's like, if I look at Baltimore and I wonder, like, because it's going to be hard for Browns fans to be empathetic here because, like, you know, like we wish we could be off right now.
That's okay.
like, you know, like we wish we were in that position with the franchise quarterback to talk about what could take us over the top. But it's going to be frustrating if you get to that place, right? Like, don't take for granted how frustrating this place is for Baltimore. And I think the most frustrating part about it is that you don't feel like, you feel like they just, at the end of the day, they are going to lean towards, let's not shake something up, right? Let's just stick with what we got and see what happens instead of let's make a big move here. And I'm worried that that's going to turn into, oh shit, we got to panic. Let's make a really big move here that makes no sense, right? Like,
which is worst.
Yeah, which ends up being worse in the long run. Whereas, like, if you could have made the move for Brian Burns, or there was another edge rusher that got moved. Brian Burns moved twice, right? Sweat. Yeah, like, you know, even somebody like Chase Young, who it's like it would have been helpful, right? You know, even getting in the market for Zadarius Smith a couple of years ago, like something like that, right? It just feels like Baltimore, they never feel the sense of urgency to make that final move that's going to make them be able to beat a team like Kansas City, even when they struggle a little bit, right? And that's why I think Baltimore's biggest problem is they're built in a way to where if they're playing good, they can beat anybody. But if they get something doesn't go right, the passing game's a little off, Lamar's a little off, maybe the run game's not working well, Derrick Henry's having one of those nights, they don't have that other thing to overcome it. Like the Eagles, you watch them and it's like if Jalen Hurts is having a bad game, they go to Saquon, right? And that can carry them through. Baltimore doesn't have that counterpunch. And it's like, hey, if it's not Lamar, and it's the same thing going on in Buffalo, who they've dodged this shit all the time. Like, it's the same exact thing going on in Buffalo, where it's like, yeah, if your main punch is not working, you have nothing to rely on. The Chiefs, they have that defense and they have Andy Reid. And sometimes that's enough, right? Patrick Mahomes could be a smart enough game manager when it's not working to just lull the game into sleep and just take the one big home run shot when he needs it. And that's going to be enough for them. But that's what the other teams that haven't come out the AFC have struggled with. Is like, hey, when everything else is going bad, what's your counterpunch? And it would be nice if Lamar didn't need to have a great game. He didn't need to be accurate because you could throw it up to A.J. Brown and A.J. Brown goes off, right? It would be nice if the defense, got so much pressure that all Lamar really had to do was score 17 points to win a playoff game. And it didn't require him to be an MVP level quarterback all 4 games to win it all. But as long as that's going to be the case, then you're always going to end up in a situation where it feels like it's Lamar letting you down. But what's really letting them down is the fact that it's just so Lamar centric that you can't win any other way. And they have refused to be aggressive enough to not let that be the case. And you're watching this team right now. It does not feel like you're not going to run into those same roadblocks this postseason, does it?
And no, because the problem is, I said this in our show that there's like 4 years ago where we were basically bringing UPS drivers to play corner. After that, we've been corner obsessed. Now, I like good corner, just not me battling anything corners, but they forget our corners are really, really helped by a great pass rush. Makes the ball come out quicker, so they don't have to be there vibing for 8 seconds at a second, which is what we're doing right now. But the problem is, I don't see any change in philosophy. They basically, it's almost like, the Baltimore Ravens are very well respected. I think the Steelers are in the same boat here, around the league, around the media. So they're like, we're not winning, but only Kansas City and the Eagles have been winning the past 5 years. We'll be fine. People still like us. People still consider us like a staple franchise. And I think that's what I would say from the owner down is what it looks like right now. Yeah, we're putting a good roster, but are we putting the best roster?
It's like the upgraded, it's the franchise quarterback version of what Pittsburgh's been doing. Yeah. Right? Because Pittsburgh's not constantly going to be in like the second round, third round, because they just don't have the quarterback to do it. But like Baltimore has the quarterback to do it. It's kind of the same thing that happened with Pittsburgh with Big Ben at the end, right? Where it's like, it's constantly second, third round, right? And not really breaking through. And it's just like safe philosophy of like, hey, we could be worse, right? It seems like every time they think of a move, somebody's there to scare them to death that it could be worse than what they have right now.
Yeah.
And as much as like as much as like the Ravens and the Steelers talk about not living in their fears, it feels like they're captured by their fears the most, those two teams.
Yep.
Because they don't want to imagine a better world because all they can think of is how much worse it could be. You know? And it's like, I think what Raven fans would like, I think that's why Raven fans talk about like Brian Flores so much, because he just feels like you're going to be a lot more aggressive philosophy wise as an organization. And it just feels like there's been a big window of opportunity here that they haven't been aggressive enough in.
Yeah. And the question for me will go back to, if Harbaugh leaves, will this team be better if Harbaugh leaves and you insert Coach X? Or do we need to both Harbaugh and ADC go? Not because I'm not even talking about the Harbaugh's just a trash coach. I think Harbaugh is a decent to good coach. Definitely, if you're building like a Tennessee right now, John Harbaugh would be great. Stable, that franchise and all that.
He has the clout to get some long term.
Exactly.
Like you're not going to fire Harbaugh in the first couple of years.
But if in the case of EDC, my question will be, if you bring up B-Flow or somebody like that, would you be willing to trust him? Like when he says, I need this player X or Y, because famously B-Flow, when he was in Miami, he wanted Justin Herbert, and the owner, whoever, maybe it was the GM, said, no, I think Tua's better. He got overridden, which I think is crazy, because if you're the coach and you're saying, this is my guy, you trusted him to be the coach. Here it is. That's your guy. Yeah. So that would be my question with EDC, because if the guy that he brings he cannot trust, then we need to get them
draft the quarterback that your coach hates. Like it might be if there's like a disagreement, right? Like if it's like, he prefers Justin Herbert to like Joe Burrow, but he likes them both. You can live with that, right? Like that's fine. You can't live with I think Tua's gonna stink.
Yeah, but she was right.
And like, you know, he was right, but now you put him in a situation. You put Tua in a situation where it's like the guy that's the coach who thinks he sucks.
Yeah,
like,
no. It was a horrible
yeah,
situation. Miami,
yeah.
Miami might be the most toxic franchise that we don't talk enough about, but it might be the most toxic
Miami
franchise.
and New Orleans, because I talk about this all the time. New Orleans has somehow ended up in a situation as bad as worse than Cleveland without trading for Deshaun Watson. Like they avoided having to do the Deshaun Watson trade. And they're somehow in a worse position than the Browns are.
Yeah, the problem that New Orleans had was they mortgaged the future until they couldn't mortgage anything more, and then the bill got due. I think what they should have done.
The bubble burst on them with the pandemic, right? And they ain't been the same since.
Exactly. So I think they need to basically start clean slate, not keep passion and trying to push more money now. You need to start clean slate. It looks like they're doing this year, right? Because they're sucking bad. Anyway, yeah. So that's the question in the case of Baltimore. Can they survive if it's only Harbaugh gone, or do they need to do both? Which again, it goes back to owner. And I don't know if I think our owner is really good at not meddling. Like people talk about meddling.
There's a world where the ownership decide, like, because like letting go of EDC is a different beast.
Yeah.
Than letting go, because like that's the direct, because Ozzy's still up there, right?
Yeah.
And like some kind of, so it's like that's Ozzy's guy, right?
Yeah.
So like the severing that tie, like if you let go of Harbaugh, I think everybody can understand, well, you didn't win in the playoffs, but EDC, that's a gutsy move right there, because
I think if you let Harbaugh go as an owner, you basically have to oversee, or maybe Ozzy will tell you how is EDC and the new guy dynamic. If he's embracing him, like, look, or is EDC gonna be like, no, I'm giving you these players, you need to win with it, right? Because that is my fear. And I'm not saying that I see anything saying that will be the case. I think EDC as a GM, as a drafter, he is a solid guy. Definitely, I think your guy is better. I like how your draft is always better, the Browns. Obviously, the Eagles GM is top tier. We talk about Howie,
Brad Holmes and stuff too.
Yeah, and we talk about the Rams always drafting good players. Right. So EDC, EDC is not there. EDC is not there. EDC is in the next tier, right? So so my question is, will he listen to set new coach? But I will go back. I think if Harbaugh gets to 8 wins, he doesn't get fired. If we collapse, like if we lose today and basically the wheels fall off, then you have an argument, hopefully, to fire him. If he goes to 8 wins, even though if we don't make the playoffs, he is gonna convince. Like, look, I had injuries early in the season. That's why we started so slow. When was the last time you saw me starting so slow? I will argue last year you started 1 and 2, but whatever. Let me do this right, and then we'll give him an extra year. That's what I think. It's not what I would like. If he makes the playoffs, they're gonna be like, man, look at the adversity this guy went through, and he still made the playoffs, and he ain't gonna get fired. So we'll see. Which will frustrate the Ravens fans. I mean, if we win the Super Bowl, that's a different story. That's then you bought yourself at least 5 more years of grace. But I don't think it's gonna be the story this year that the Harbaugh gets fired.
Well, we'll see what happens. It's definitely an interesting year in the North. I've never seen this division be this sad. Collectively, there is not one team that feels great right now. Like, legitimately. Usually there's somebody talking a gang of shit during the show. There ain't nobody feeling great right now. Every day, the Bengals is lost to the Jets, right? When this comes out, I don't know what's going to happen on Sunday or Thursday, because we're recording this before the Thursday night game. But yeah, nobody feels great. Even if the Ravens win on Thursday night, they're still 2 games under 500.
Yeah, they are.
Like it's a long climb, right? The Bengals are under 500. The Steelers look like they might be rapidly approaching it. Now, who knows what they do this week? But it's a strange time in the AFC North where, you know, for us to be the division that might put in the under 500 team.
It is. Now, the question that I have, and we talked with Jared about it, is if the Steelers fumble the division, which now we are very like if they lose on Sunday and the Ravens happen to win, we're just one game behind, even though we're 3-5. It's that for Tomlin, right? Because you have the best opportunity anybody had this year. Ravens started slow and Lamar got injured. The Bengals started 2-0, but then Joe Burrow gets injured, right? For a extended time, more than Lamar. And the Browns haven't been able to be offensively good. So they had everything there to take the division.
Yeah, if they fumble the division to Baltimore this year, especially because it's Baltimore too, right? Yeah. Because if it were Cincinnati, I think everybody can just brush off Cincinnati because like nobody hates Cincinnati in the division quite like the way like the Ravens and Steelers hate each other, the Steelers and the Browns hate each other. Yeah, but man, I don't know. That would be something. That would be the first thing in a really, really long time that actually sticks to Tomlin. You know what I mean? Like that. He's been able to shake off all of this stuff that, I talked to Jared about it. You look at what Mike Tomlin's done in the last 8 years, it gets coaches fired. Like doing what Mike Tomlin has not done in the playoffs, right? He shook that off and somehow ended up with a better reputation.
Yep.
Fumbling this division to a team that was 1-6 to start the year, something crazy like that. 2-6 or 1-6.
The Ravens were 1-5.
1-5 to start the year. When you started the year like 4-1.
4-1. Yep.
Yeah. That's gonna be something that's gonna be a shot that sticks. Now I don't know if it's the one that takes him out, right? But that one ain't coming off anytime soon. And if you compound that with like, a very embarrassing wild card exit, and maybe there's some turmoil in the locker room, who knows what can happen, but I think it's going to take a couple of years after that first shot sticks with Tomlin for anything to get real for him, right? Because right now, I mean, nothing stuck to him. Like, as much as people complain about him on the internet, nothing stuck to the guy, right? And that would be the first thing where I'm like, oh, that's going to, like, there's no way. Every fan of every level is going to look at that and be like, all right, what's been going on the last 5 years? And then if it happens again, it's over, right? Like, but that's the kind of stuff, right? It's like if you're Alabama, you're Kalen DeBoer. As long as he keep beating Georgia and LSU, he's fine, right? Yeah. Like he's fine. He's not losing to Auburn. He's fine. Ryan Day, he lost to Michigan a few times. He won a national championship. Nothing's really stuck to him, right? Yeah. But like doing this the way that you've done it, that sticks.
Especially in the case of Tomlin, they have built this team how he wanted, right? He still wanted more veteran players on the defensive side. So they give him more veteran players on the defensive side. I argue, I said this to Jared, that they traded the same type of wide receiver, just more expensive. George Pickens is moody. DK is also kind of moody. Not as much as Pickens, but it was the same type of receiver. And it's the offense. The offense for Tomlin seems like an afterthought. Completely an afterthought.
And the thing is too is that the defense has been expensive, old, and bad for the last few years. But Sonny, appreciate you for coming on here, man. Where can people find you?
SCG Sports everywhere: YouTube, Twitter, SCG Sports. Obviously in the AFC North talk. Go check us out. We have a lot of fun there. So I'll hope to see you there.
All right, y'all. Appreciate Sonny for coming on. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.